Chapter 8. Doorway, own clothes and bedding. All of them were thrown at the door. Looking at the things he was thrown out, Lin Chen's expression was cold. But also at this time, a burst of sound came from the half-hidden door. Miss Jiang, let me tell you, the price of the room I rented out to you is definitely cheap. 1 month, I only charge you a rent of 3,700, which is the rent I gave you. You can't find a cheaper one in the entire community. And look at my room, it still faces south, and the lighting is even better. Listen to this sound. There was a sneer in Lin Chen's heart. Then, he pushed open the door and walked in. Just walked in. I saw a middle-aged woman with a bloated figure standing there, and by her side, followed by one, dressed very clean and concise, woman with curly hair in a business attire. Looking at Lin Chen who walked in, the landlady over there immediately sneered. Hey, you're back. Just in time, I've cleared out all your junk for you. Take everything by yourself and get out. I won't rent your room to you anymore. The landlady's aunt had a contemptuous smile on her face at this moment. After saying this sentence, it is also very refreshing. Last time, Lin Chen hid in the room and didn't open the door for her, which made her very upset. And right now, let him know. What will happen if you offend yourself? Hearing these words, Lin Chen narrowed his eyes slightly. My things, you threw them out? Oh, what? I threw it out, so what can you do with me? The landlady put her hands on her hips and said with a sneer. And Lin Chen was there, continuing to speak calmly. I remember, there are still 6 days before the contract between us expires, right? As he spoke, Lin Chen glanced at the woman in business attire and said, in other words, our contract has not expired, but you threw out all my things. You also bring other tenants to see the house, you are blatantly breaching the contract. Listen to what Lin Chen said. The landlady is completely fearless, with arms akimbo, looking at Lin Chen, said loudly, I broke the contract, so what happened? Don't talk nonsense with my old lady here, pack up your things quickly, and get out. Hearing this, Lin Chen couldn't help shaking his head. Is my landlord really an old law-blind person? However, at this moment, a burst of sound also came from outside the door. Mr. Lin, what's the matter? Manager Zhou walked in. Just now, because the elevator was full, he could only take the next one. But after coming up, I heard the quarrel here, and looked at Manager Zhou who walked in. The complexion of the landlady's aunt changed because of it. As for the manager this week, he also noticed the landlord aunt there at this time. For a while, I felt a little familiar. Then, he pondered for a while. Road. I remember, are you Ms. Zhao? He still has a little impression of the landlady. The landlord's aunt is also a customer of their Love Home store. I have 5 houses in my hand. Moreover, with their company, they signed a full care agreement. The so-called entrustment agreement belongs to the kind of agreement that fully entrusts them to sell. After signing, the tenant must go to their agency to rent the house. In terms of intermediary fees, it will be slightly lower. Oh, Manager Zhou, why are you back? Looking at Manager Zhou, an embarrassing smile appeared on the landlady's face. After all, I signed a full care agreement with Lianjia. If it is discovered that I show someone to see the house privately, and I plan to rent it out privately, then I have to pay a large amount of liquidated damages. Manager Zhou, on the other hand, said calmly at this time, oh, I'm here to accompany Mr. Lin to move. Mr. Lin? The landlord aunt sneered. Manager Zhou, aren't you afraid that you were tricked by this little bastard? This guy is just a small tenant. Immediately, Manager Zhou's expression turned indifferent. Little bum? Small tenants? This girl, I'm afraid she's lost her mind and went crazy. Looking at the landlord's aunt, she said coldly, Ms. Zhao, please be more polite when you speak. The Mr. Lin in front of you is a big customer of our Lianjia. In his hands, there are 2 buildings of Junuevuoding, a whole 120 properties. Boom. Moment. The landlady over there felt struck by lightning. Stand where you are, with a dull expression on your face. The woman in professional attire next to her opened her mouth wide. Looking at Lin Chen in front of him, his little face was full of astonishment. In front of him was a handsome young man who looked as old as himself. In your hand, there are 2 buildings? Have a whole 120 houses? This, just kidding, this. Manager Zhou, you must have made a mistake. How could it be possible for him to have 120 houses? Before him, he couldn't even pay the rent. The landlady's expression is getting more and more nervous now. Wrong? Of course it's impossible to make a mistake, Manager Zhou said immediately. We checked Mr. Lin's information before, and signed the lease agreement. After these words fell, the landlady there was a little panicked. According to this, Lin Chen really has 120 houses. A total of 120 houses. This is a lot, worth more than 400 million. For a moment, the landlady recalled what she had said before, and threw out all Lin Chen's things. His expression became paler and paler. After all, the other party owns more than 100 properties. As far as this asset is concerned, it is not at the same level as myself. Immediately, he apologized to Lin Chen. Lin, Mr. Lin. What happened before was all a misunderstanding, all a misunderstanding. Misunderstand? Lin Chen sneered. Then, shaking his head, he said, now, tell me it's a misunderstanding? Ha! As he spoke, he glanced at Manager Joe who was there. Tell me what happened before from beginning to end. After finishing these words, the Manager Joe who was there narrowed his eyes slightly. If this is the case, then the rented house by Mr. Lin has not yet expired. Therefore, the right to use the house belongs to Mr. Lin. Ms. Zhao, you have no right to take back the room now, and your behavior is a unilateral breach of contract. In this case, 1 month's rent needs to be paid as liquidated damages. Moreover, you have no right to take back the rented room. Lin Chen laughed when he heard this. Then, he said again, in addition, all my personal belongings have been destroyed. Regarding this matter, you are ready to go to court to resolve it.